Hey class, this is Josh, and this is my social class artifact. Some takeaways. I thought Schwartz really defined social class well. You can read that first quote there. Despite the unremittent increase in economic disparity between our upper class and those in the middle and lower classes, the construct of class itself is not in the domain of public discourse due to largely to commanding structural entities like the media, pop culture, politics, Wall Street, relentlessly pounding the perception that formulating issues in terms of class is unacceptable, perhaps even un-American. Some more takeaways. The statistics regarding our income inequality are pretty telling and don't really show much signs of stopping. Half of all U.S. Households hold just 1% of the nation's wealth, while the top 1% have 34.5% of the nation's wealth, and the total top 10% share is 74.5%. Between 1989 and 2010, the top percent's share of wealth steadily rose, while the rest of us, the share actually decreased. Within the last couple of years, income skyrocketed 31% for the top 1%, while for the average American, it was more like 0.4%, which is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of that 31%. Some more takeaways. Across all spheres of education, economic class directly correlates with educational access, success, and outcome. Mancios's reality number 6 coincides with that. And Aston contends that more than any other factor, a student's socioeconomic status portends the strongest effect on the completion of the bachelor's degree, while the level of inequality with regards to higher education now has never been greater than ever. Some complexities I noticed throughout the past 50 years. There have been quite a few efforts, largely through the government, to enable low-income students to matriculate into and graduate college. But despite these incentives and initiatives, the current campus climate for low-income students is unprecedentedly dwarfed by that of their high-income counterparts. As Duffy says, a student from the highest income quartile and the lowest aptitude quartile is as likely to be enrolled in college as a student from the lowest income quartile and the highest aptitude quartile, which is somewhat ironic. Despite these efforts, about 2.4 million qualified college prospects won't receive undergraduate degrees due to being financially strapped. Some intersectionalities I noticed. Research suggests that disavowing one's lower working class cultural heritage in order to integrate with the collegiate minority is more or less a prerequisite for social success in college. Ostrov and Long's research indicates that class background significantly correlates with the student's perception of belonging to and adjusting to campus, as well as perceptions regarding needs and opportunities, institutional classism, and exclusion. And as Schwartz et al. Indicate, the notion of severing certain students from their familial and ethnic cultures is improbable and probably insensitive, particularly for the country's soaring Latino population, which is highly family-centered. Colleges should work toward and strive towards cultural congruity, not campus cultural assimilation necessarily for these types of students. Some theory to practice things that I gathered. Programs like TRIO, which was around since 1965, try to help low-income and first-generation students with workshops, counseling, and these participants of this program are more likely to graduate college as well as enroll in a graduate program. Another big one, Boston College's Learning to Learn program has been a bastion for educational advocacy for low-income students, providing the services that are described there. And Schwartz et al. Contend that campus cultural centers are the most vital resource for the rising and most often low-income Latino student demographic that I mentioned earlier. Each student involved in the study from Schwartz credited the cultural center as central to helping them stay connected to the university and committed to success in their undergraduate journeys. There's my quote. You can read over that. And some personal perspectives that were pertinent, I thought. I come from a pretty smack dab in the middle class family. And at this particular familial financial juncture, I didn't receive anything in the way of federal grants. I was also a pretty above average student, so that didn't really get me anything in the way of scholarships. So anyways, I'm currently about 30,000 plus in student loan debt, despite working full time throughout pretty much all of my undergraduate and through currently all of my graduate studies. So I guess the question I have is, should more resources, for example, grants, be allocated towards students like me and countless others when considering decidedly smack dab in the middle class parents make just enough, as designated by the government, to forego their children's eligibility for grants or other subsidies, slapping incessantly skyrocketing tuition prices on these students to pay off throughout their lifespan? How might a 2-year tuition-free proposal that are being floated around right now by those 3 states fix these financial burdens, as well as the salient discrepancy between high and low-income student representation in higher education? How could this free tuition model floated be feasible, and how might it not? So, sorry for the long question. And these are my references. So, thanks for checking this video out, and hope we have a great discussion. Thanks, guys.